Formula One heads to Singapore this weekend after 3 years away due to COVID-19. Street circuits are well known for being mentally taxing despite the slower speeds involved, requiring full concentration and offering little time for respite along the short straights. But Singapore is a beast like no other. It is renowned for being one of the hardest races to compete in both physically and mentally, meaning it requires a kind of preparation unlike any other race. F1 drivers may be elite athletes working with performance coaches and their teams to try and unlock more human performance, but their regular level of fitness and normal training plans will not be enough for the challenge of Singapore. So, how does a Formula One driver get ready for the hardest race of the year? The heat is one of the biggest factors drivers need to adjust to when they race in Singapore. The average year-round humidity in Singapore is over 80%, while the temperature in October is still around 30 degrees Celsius given its proximity to the equator. The drivers may be used to racing in hot conditions, be it in the Middle East or mainland Europe at the height of summer, but nothing comes close to the sapping conditions of Singapore because of that humidity. If you follow the Formula One drivers on social media, you will have seen some of the inventive ways their trainers have been getting them ready for the challenge. Last week, Carlos Sainz posted a video of himself on Instagram riding an exercise bike in a sauna as a way to try and get used to how hot it will be in the cockpit through the race in Singapore. Other approaches include adding extra layers of clothing for routine workouts or simply sitting in the sauna at a really high heat as a way to teach the body what to expect in Singapore. Every workout becomes that much harder and a lot more sweaty, but it will be worth it come race day. But it's not only the heat and humidity that makes Singapore such a grueling challenge. Unlike the high-speed street tracks of Jeddah and Baku, Singapore's average speed is quite low, thanks to its 23-corner layout. Charles Leclerc's pole lap in 2019 was a 1 minute 36, which is around 8 seconds slower than Sergio Perez's pole time in Jeddah this year, despite the Jeddah track being a kilometre longer than Singapore. This makes the Singapore race one of the longest of the season without fail. Since joining the calendar in 2008, the Singapore Grand Prix has never been completed in less than 1 hour and 51 minutes. That was in 2018, and has hit F1's 2-hour time limit on 4 occasions. No other race gets as close to the time limit so often, meaning endurance is a big element drivers must prepare for, particularly when they manage the heat for so long. One of the more unusual challenges for the drivers in Singapore is adjusting to the time zone. This may be something to bear in mind at every race, but Singapore is trickier because it is a night race. The best approach is to remain on the European time zones, which means bedtime is around 6 AM in Singapore before rising mid-afternoon. Teams will also make special preparations for Singapore, ensuring hotels know not to disturb their personnel for housekeeping and that the unconventional sleeping habits are accounted for. Something else to consider this time around in Singapore will be the new generation of cars. A lot has changed since 2019, with the regulation overhaul for this year and increased weight of the cars making them more sluggish in slow-speed corners, which has made street tracks more difficult. And then there is the bouncing that teams have encountered this year with their cars, which will be even harsher for teams as they go over the bumpy streets around Marina Bay. Esteban Ocon said at Monza he thought the cars would feel as stiff as go-karts when they hit the curbs in Singapore, while Pierre Gasly said it would be an extreme race for everyone. But Singapore nevertheless remains one of the favourite races on the calendar for the drivers, all of whom are excited to get back to the track and the vibrant city, and for some, drive it for the very first time. All the teams know by now how to prepare for Singapore, but after 3 years away, it is likely to be the toughest challenge F1 drivers have faced for some time.